Thank you.
What's the local town going to do?
Yes, thanks. So my question goes like this. I welcome the Climate Change Act that came into law in the last Parliament. However, since its introduction, we've seen little evidence of policies that would lead to carbon emission reductions being implemented in Swindon. So if elected, how would you work with the local representatives in Swindon so that our town takes the measures required to meet the UK carbon reduction target?
Thank you. I'll start with Jenny on that one.
I think it's going to be an uphill struggle based on our current council. But I'm not the kind of person that walks away from a fight. I'm the kind of person that gets mad and sort of like a bull that's got hold of a child's leg. I can't let go of it. So, yes. But this has been something that has been winding me up for years, because there's always a lot of rhetoric, and I do pay tribute to Anne, because I think she has tried to do an awful lot, and I do accept that. But I think we've seen relatively little actually be done about it. And we could, again, I know Andy tried to boom an act through Parliament to actually say that council offices and so forth should be made more energy efficient, and down by the Tories. But there we are. I get it. And I think we can do. I think we can do a lot more, and I think some of it does need to be a change in culture. Some simple, easy things that you could do would actually be to teach children cycling proficiency in schools and these kind of things, so that parents feel more willing to actually let children go out. It is, I think, also as Sarah had mentioned about the parish council, it's about giving local communities a lot more say in what goes on in their local area, because generally speaking, they know what to do. The governors know what they want to do around their school to stop people driving so much, and the parish councillors know what they want to do to have traffic calming measures and to reduce the things. And it's actually allowing people to do this and having a proper consultation, not, I have decided this, what do you think about it, but actually say, right, what can we do? And it's actually properly listen to people. I don't think we've had that. And that is one thing that I would like to do.
Robert,
well, not so much come back on it. I don't want to ping-pong about who did what, when, and where. The fact is the government, local and central, has to set an example. Of course it does. Central government, if we're elected, will set an example within the first year by making a 10% cut in carbon emissions. That's in Whitehall. And I frankly expect local authorities like Swindon to do the same, and to keep on doing the same year on year. I would view myself very much as somebody who would be a critical friend, if you like, of the local authority, independent of it, not frightened to say when I think it is going wrong, and to encourage it to do better in the field, not only of its own energy consumption, but also in encouraging different forms of energy consumption within the borough. And we talked about transport and sustainability. There's a lot more that needs to be done there, I readily acknowledge, and I'd be more than happy to, again, work very hard to make sure that if attitudes need changing in part of the borough council, then they should be. So in other words, a critical friend, ready to intervene, ready to challenge, and ready to be an independent voice when it comes to the council setting an example locally.
Robin.
Generally, it doesn't want national government to interfere less and less with local councils. That the local council will be much more autonomy and freedom to do what people want. I can't understand why Swindon Borough Council would not want to keep their energy bills lower by insulating buildings. I mean, I noticed recently that the Euclid Street building seems to have single glazing throughout. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Okay, and Anne? I think this is, the Climate Change Act was introduced a couple of years ago, but it often takes about 6 months to 9 months to get the bill going. One of the most important things in that Act, which I think has passed a lot of people by, is that it actually changes the Treasury perspective. Up to the Climate Change Act, and whilst I was taking my private members bill through the Commons, the Treasury's main charge was value for money, and that was in every single area. They had targets which they were absolutely driven by. So somebody like me coming along, even though I was, a Labour Party backbencher, that absolutely horrified them because my private member's bill would have actually put quite a big charge on government departments to bring their buildings up to A or B efficiency. So there were hysterical Treasury officials at every meeting that I was going to. But the climate change bill, or the Act as it is now, actually says to the Treasury, you have to take into account, as every government department does now, the effect of what you do on climate change, and that includes cutting or saving money in this area. So that means those civil servants actually have a fail-safe, and that's really important to drive the climate change message through central government as well as local government. It is true that a Conservative MP shouted object to my bill, but you can't keep a good woman down. That's why I rejigged it so that we could get it into the Climate Change Act, and spent about 6 months being a thorn in the side of our own ministers and the Treasury officials, which was fun in some ways, but extremely annoying in other ways, because I naively thought, as a Labour backbencher, that everybody would be welcoming to me, and it just wasn't true. So to get those clauses into the Climate Change Bill would shorten probably my life by several years, I think. But one of the things I would say, I would pay credit to Swindon Borough Council where it's due. On the Warm Front initiative, I think they've been absolutely fantastic. They've worked with the energy companies, and the energy companies also have a duty laid on by government to help people with insulation, to help people with central heating, and to basically get some of our housing stock, particularly in the centre of Swindon, the Victorian housing stock, up to the scratch with insulation and all sorts of measures which will cut not only people's bills but cut the climate, the emissions, the carbon emissions. And so that has been really good. And I think if we can build on that with Swindon Borough Council and say to them, that's a great success, could we use that as a model? Could we use that as a model for other areas? Then I think we might get somewhere. But that needs leadership locally as well as nationally. And
And finally, okay. I think there's some very good points being made here, which I will repeat. Yes, we need leadership, both locally and centrally. I think incentivisation is a way to deal with it as well. Persuade them that actually provide incentives for the councils to provide that leadership, the central government to provide leadership. I think we're right there. I think legislation where it's necessary, to provide the framework to be able to do that, but equally provide the money to do it as well. One of the things that we are going to do as parties provide sufficient funds to be able to provide these initiatives and to fund the initiatives that are going to be required. But I think the key one was made by Robert and Anne as well, and that is leadership both locally and nationally.